Welcome to the BigMoneyDetailer.com podcast. You're in the right place to discover the insider secrets to earn more so you can serve more. Here is your host, the founder of Big Money Detailer and also known as America's Chief Profit Officer, Davy Tyburski. Be sure to visit us at BigMoneyDetailer.com.
Hey, Big Money Detailers. Welcome to the Big Money Detailer podcast today. And woo, I am excited. We have the Jacob Tran on the podcast today. He's from Houston, Texas. As many of you know who've been following me for a long time, I'm from San Antonio, Texas. So you get two Texans today on the podcast, and we're excited. So Jacob, are you ready to thrive and shine, brother?
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Well, let's jump in first. We had a chance to talk before we started the recording here, but I think one of the things that makes you very unique, at least to the guests I've had on the Big Money Detailer podcast, is you're sort of balancing two things. So let's talk a little bit about that and kind of the lessons you're learning as you go through this process.
Yeah, so I am also in school studying engineering, so having to balance out engineering, entrepreneurship, it's definitely a struggle. But I feel like it also gives me a little bit of an edge having that engineering mindset kind of backing up everything I do. So a lot of what I do kind of comes into play when it has like a bunch of data analysis. It kind of conflicts with entrepreneurship a little bit because, as you know, like when you start a business, when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of the time you just want to get things going. You want to start it and then you want to get stuff out in production as fast as possible. So like when I started a detailing business, that's how I was thinking because I wasn't an engineer yet. I'm going, just starting things. And then now as I'm starting to do a lot more engineering work and trying to learn these processes and data analysis, now I'm thinking, okay, first let me check and see if this is going to work. So it's definitely a duality between both and having to balance the schedule between doing that and then also the detailing business. It's a lot, but that's what my workers and my friends that are kind of supporting me as well kind of help me get through.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the other big thing too, and again, you don't have to share your age if you don't want to, but let me just say this guy, for those of you on the video, you could see that Jacob's a little bit younger than me, not by much, but certainly a little younger. But I think it's a blessing, brother, that you're actually learning this lesson early on in life. For instance, you're not trying to do it all on your own. Tell me a little more about sort of how you're structured. And again, you're part-time, which is fine. Mm-hmm. I think it's great. I think everybody that's part-time, you do something you love to do. And by the way, if you're getting paid for it, I think it's great. But talk a little bit about how at an early age you've been able to realize that you can't do it all alone.
Yeah, so I would say the first couple of years I was going pretty slow since I was also taking a lot of my harder classes. And then kind of as I started gradually getting better at school and engineering and how to kind of prioritize my time, then I was like, okay, let me start running some ads, start running some meta ads. And then I started getting some workers in that I knew, trained them up. And the way I was able to kind of train people and get someone basically to become a mini-me is just having like a standardized procedure every single time. So whether it's doing a full exterior, full interior, or a maintenance detail, they know exactly how to do it because I've created standard procedures every single time. So our times relatively stay the same, whether we're doing like a maintenance detail, it's going to be an hour, or like a full interior, it'll be around 2 to 3. And then if we're doing like a complete detail, it'll be around 3 to 4. And usually those times stay pretty consistent because of those systems in place, as well as for the back end side of everything, having that retaining clientele with like automations or back end systems kind of help a lot as well, just to keep us having constant work.
Yeah, that's big. And again, just we always try to pick out the key learning opportunities for all the listeners here. One of the big learning opportunities is a lot of the private clients that we work with here at Big Money Detailer. And I had it I had it also at a younger age, which is the old myth that no one can do it as good as me. Nobody can do it as good as me, which sometimes holds detailers back, right? Especially detailing business owners like you who are juggling, in your case, school and the detailing business. So one of the things that helped me at an early age, and certainly it's helping you already, which is fantastic, is, hey, I feel more confident handing this off to have somebody else go take care of this client, knowing that they're following step 1, get out of the car. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do that. And I think that's a big learning opportunity for all the listeners today is if you don't have those standard operating procedures, and again, don't get hung up on what you call it. You can call it an SOP, a standard operating procedure. You can call it a checklist. You can have it written down on a paper towel if you want to do that, but have it written out step by step. So when you delegate that down and you have other team members that come on, they can basically follow that in a step-by-step system. Similar to like making, if you like chocolate chip cookies, you have a recipe, you follow the recipe the same way. Most of the time, the cookies come out the same way. So I think that's awesome that you already have those SOPs set up. And then fast forward, in a few years when you grow this to $1 million business, one of the key things that someone who's going to acquire your business is going to look at is obviously, your marketing, but they're also going to look at the systems you have in place. So I think it's awesome that you have those in place today. Let's go back. Pick any time from today all the way back to when you started. Was there like a past experience that, let's just say, didn't go well, and you learned from it? And more importantly, what did you do to correct that? Like, what was a big poop moment for you? And more importantly, what did you do to overcome that?
Yeah, I would definitely say when I was first starting, I probably had a job where we didn't have like those checklists and those quality checks or anything like that. And it was me and another worker at the time when I was training him. And we're kind of just going through the motions. We've been detailing like all day. We get to the end of the job, we do everything, and then the client's just not satisfied. And, as I got to realize, that's where I kind of learned, okay, this is where quality checks matter. This is where those SOPs matter, because if we're not providing quality to our clients, then our business is not going to do well. And for us, like having 5 stars, having quality reviews is like pretty much everything to help growing our business, especially when it comes to like Google SEO and all that.
Yeah, good. That's a great comment about that, because at the end of the day, you want to have very happy clients, and then obviously they'll introduce you to others, and that's really how you grow your business. Detailers call it referrals, I call it introductions, but that's one of the key things is making sure you're taking care of them. And the takeaway again is if you don't already have that in place, a quality checkpoint. And again, some detailers do it in like 3 different they'll have a checklist for the interior, do a quality check, and then they'll have exterior. However you want to do it, the important thing that Jacob's communicating to us is you have to have quality checks built into your current process, whether you do it at the end or during, whatever it happens to look like. But those checks have to occur because it does prevent a big blow up at the end of that particular project or whatever that might be. All right, cool. How about this one, man? What is I know it's gonna be hard for you because you have a lot, but if you had to pick one, just one superpower, like Jacob, you're so darn good at it, dude. You should be wearing a cape. Like, what is your superpower that you want to share with with the listeners today?
Um, I would definitely say kind of like the systems thinking mindset, kind of having that engineering background, being able to kind of do that data analysis to have like more driven improvements instead of just like guesswork. But it definitely helps. It helps in pretty much everything problem solving wise.
Got it. So again, that systems mindset, and you've mentioned that quite a few times today. And again, for the listeners, if you haven't picked up on that, he's mentioning it because it's a very, very important part of your detailing business, right? And I know that again, by having those systems in place, and I always talk about the 5 areas of your detailing business, starting with the thumb. It's the biggest and thickest part of your hand. It's the marketing. Then you got sales, customer service, operations, getting paid. But systems around all 5 of those areas are critical, and I think that's a very important thing to make sure that you have in place at a especially when you're starting out. And for some of the veterans on the podcast today, it's just a reminder that, like I say in my keynotes, common sense is not common practice. So you just heard that, and you're like, oh yeah, systems. Oh, yeah, it's common sense, but is it common practice in your detailing business? All right, let's talk a little bit about. I know you do some online marketing, right? But tell me the other flavors of marketing that you do, and then we'll figure out where we want to dive into after that.
I would say like my best marketing honestly is just organic through Google. Since over time I was able to build like a pretty good clientele base and then a good amount of reviews. So a lot of it is organic through Google. I have like Facebook Meta ads running as well. And then alongside that, I have Instagram, which kind of connects with all the Meta ads and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. And what about offline things? What are some of the things you do? I know that you definitely get referrals. I see them on your website. But what are some of the things you do offline, and how do you go about that?
I would say for offline, it's really just, I guess, word of mouth. I don't really do much offline since for me, like, I don't really have the time for a lot of like offline outreach or anything like that. Like if it's sending out letters or anything like that. I know you could do that as well. Like you could send out postcards in the mail and stuff like that. But I mainly just stick to online marketing. It's what's been working for me so far.
Yeah, that's great. The other thing too, like at Big Money Detailer, we teach our coaching clients like how to market 100 different ways. For Dylan's business, the Affluent Auto Spa, we market 100 different ways, a combination of online, offline, and a few other things that really come in from other industries that I've been involved with to help coach. We take what works in those other industries and we model it a little bit, tweak it, and then we make it work for the detailing business. One of the big things that we've really ramped up is our, again, you call them referrals, which is fine, but we've ramped up our introductions. How do we make it very easy for a very satisfied client to introduce you, not refer you, but introduce you to others in their network? So, for instance, if you have a CPA or you have a CEO of a local company and they love you, then how do you help them?
Let's take a quick break. What if everything you've been told about getting referrals for your detailing business was completely wrong? Are you tired of chasing clients and wishing you had them running to you to use your services instead? Do you want to drive more profits for your detailing business? Forget everything you thought you knew about referrals. Go to bigmoneydetailer.com/referrals, and you'll discover how the affluent auto spa, Davy's Son's business, grew their referrals from 24% to 48%. That's right. They doubled their referrals. And you can too. Go to bigmoneydetailer.com/referrals right now.
Introduce you to others. So one of the things we put together is an introduction gift box. This comes out of the dentistry market that I coach in, where after you get your teeth cleaned, they give you that little box that has like the toothbrush and the dental floss and all that. So we modeled that for the detailing business for Dylan, and now at the end of like a ceramic or whatever it is, he gives them a gift box. And then when someone comes over or they ride by, they see the car gleaming. They're like, "Oh, who did that for you?" And in that gift box, we make it very easy for them to hand them something, because a client trying to explain the magic you do, Jacob, is a little bit difficult. And quite honestly, they usually muck it up. They
Yeah.
can't really explain the magic and the skill that you have. So one thing we want to do is we want to make it very easy for them to make that introduction. So we use that gift box. And again, those of you that might be new on the podcast, if you want to check that out, the system we use to really increase our introductions, you can go to bigmoneydetailer.com/referrals. You can check it out there, and you can see how we've actually doubled our introductions for Dylan's business, which is fantastic. All right, next one. Looking back, like all the way back, what's one thing you wish you would have done differently? We've covered systems. I get that. And you definitely have those in place, brother. And I think that's awesome. But if there's one thing you'd look back and say, man, I wish I would have done that differently, or maybe I should have done it in a different way, what would that look like? What would be one or two of those things?
Definitely get a client relationship manager a lot sooner, because I lost a lot of clientele in the beginning, just kind of, not having and building that I guess email listing, that source of clients, just that client base to be able to follow up with, to send nurturing emails. Because when I first started, I had a lot, and then I'm pretty sure I lost about half, since it took me a while to learn about what a CRM is and the benefits of it. So now that I kind of know how they work and how important they are, definitely wish I would have had that in the beginning.
Yeah, the key learning from that is really it's much easier to go back to a current client that loves you as compared to, and again, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, I get it, no issues there. That's sort of very cold, right? So you've got to kind of build that relationship once they connect with you. But what Jacob's saying, I think that's very important, is how are you, and this is the checkpoint for everybody listening, what is your checkpoint that look, your clients aren't waking up every day just thinking of you. I mean, you wish they were like, okay, I wake up in the morning, I get my Starbucks, and I'm going to think of Jacob. We wish that was like that. But what are you doing specifically to remind them that you're here to serve them? What are you doing to remind them, whether it's a physical newsletter, an e-newsletter, a quick text? Like I know, like for Easter, what Dylan did is he just went through his whole contact list. We're talking hundreds, right? And the system just sent out a simple text. Hey, hope you have a great Easter weekend. Thanks for being my client. There was no sales process. There was no sales versation happening. It was just, hey, I'm thinking about you. And of course, the following week, guess what happened to his schedule? It was a reminder to them that, hey, have a great Easter weekend. But also, hey, just a friendly reminder that I'm here to serve you. And boom, that's a simple thing like that. Think about it, Jacob, it costs pennies, right? It's pennies on the dollar. You're paying for some airtime or whatever it might be. That is a great tip. I'm glad you brought that up. All right, another one, like the first week or two that you started out, because we got a lot of new folks that come into the community. Like, what are those 1, 2, 3 things that you did in the first few weeks to really get cranking in the detailing business?
Really just personal outreach, connecting with friends, family, doing a lot of their cars. I would say one thing, don't get too caught up in the products you use, because you're going to get so caught up in buying products. And then you realize, well, I just bought a million different products. And now it's like, wow, which one should I use? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the big thing, and kind of goes back to my five fingers, right?
Hmm.
There's a lot of detailers that worry about what I call lotions and potions.
Yeah.
They're more focused on the lotions and potions and tools, but let's just be real. That stuff doesn't matter if you don't have anyone booking.
Yeah.
So you can have the best buffers, you can have the best lotions and potions, the best ceramic coatings, but if no one's texting or reaching out or booking your consultation to actually have you do a project for them, to treat their vehicle, then none of that stuff really matters. Goes back to my thumb. The thumb, and you're already on it, brother, and I think it's great. The thumb is like the most important part of any business, let alone, but specifically for the detailing business, the marketing piece is the most important thing. We don't have to worry about hiring people. We don't have to worry about customer service. We don't have to worry about how we're getting paid if we don't have the right marketing in place and the right folks to learn from to make sure you're doing it the right way. That is always something that we got to remind people of, is making sure you're doing it the right way. And it's not just about throwing spaghetti at the wall, but to your point, it's about having a system that's proven that works well, especially from a marketing perspective. All right, we're about halfway done here. So how about this? I'll flip it on you, Jacob. Well, what are some things that you want me to ask you? Like, what would be one or two things that you want to kind of throw out? Hey, Dave, you know what? Let's talk about this. And by the way, this is something new. I just thought about that, so hopefully you'll play along.
Okay. Let me think about that a little bit. I would say more of like the back end stuff, right? A lot of people know about detailing and like they may know a little bit about systems and CRMs, but on the back end side of things, like buying a shop, doing stuff like that, what are the steps like for that process? Because me myself, I'm a mobile detailer, and it's just more cost efficient for me that way. I get cash flow from being mobile, whereas if I was to have a shop, it'd be a little bit harder for me. But how would you go about, either renting out a space or getting your own property or anything like that?
Yeah, great question. So we actually just went through this with Dylan. So Dylan, like you, and again, before we started the recording, I was telling Jacob how Dylan got into the detailing business, which was during the pandemic. He was laid off from a gutter company, and he, worked at the wash tub back when he was in high school. And he's like, Dad, I'm going to start a car wash business. And of course, that conversation led to I'm going to start a detailing business, and that conversation led to this question: should I start with a mobile, or should I? And the right way, in my opinion. Now I can look. I'm pretty good at going both ways here on shop versus mobile. But let's just think about it. I always keep this right by me. This is my 1980s solar calculator. So let's just do some quick math on answering that question. And I believe a lot of detailers get whacked up emotionally about that decision. Well, if I have a shop, I'm going to be perceived as okay, but let's do the math. All right. Just easy math right now, just to make it simple. And since we're in Texas, I mean, a decent sized spot is at least gonna cost you at least $2,000 a month in rent. At least. Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna use low numbers here to make it easy. And then we got that stuff called insurance, okay, on the building. So something happens there. So we're just gonna throw, I don't know, let's throw another $120 a month for insurance. So right now we are up to 2120, 2,000 plus 120. Let's say we also have to have electricity. Oh, okay. So let's throw that in. The point is, I can keep going here, but in my rough math with Dylan when we had this conversation, Jacob, we were up to about 4,500 a month. Okay.
Sounds about right.
Now, put that in a box over here. Now let's talk about mobile. Dylan has a Mercedes Sprinter van, decked out, completely wrapped, fully all the stuff in it he needs to be mobile. Okay. Think about the monthly payment and the insurance, okay? And I'm telling you, we're way under $1,000 right there.
Yeah.
Electricity, that runs off the generator in the mobile. Water, okay, well, he just fills up the water. Insurance, well, that's covered specifically on the van, right? Of course, we have liability in case the car gets jacked up and all those type of things. But based on my estimation, and when we did the math, we were about 25 to 30% 75% savings. So let's say it was $5,000 for a shop with everything you need for the shop. We're about 1,250-ish with the van. So my encouragement is you build up the mobile business first. And the good news is we're in Texas, so it's not like we have like 30 below weather and some of the other detailers that we work with. So we get to work pretty much 12 months a year. I love the idea of building up the mobile business. And then the other cool thing about that is then to your point, you're going to love this. I say in my keynote talks, don't get mad, get data. Don't get mad, get data. So now let's fast forward. We've been mobile for, let's say, 2 years. We have a book of clients of 600, 700 clients to make this easy. We'll say 600. Now you have zip codes of every one of those clients. Now what you could do is say, okay, do a heat map in the United States. For some of you who don't know what a heat map is, basically, I like to describe it like this. You look at your area, let's call it San Antonio. Let's use Houston, which is yours. In Houston, and you went to a board with a map and you put push pins on the board around all the clients you have in the Houston area. And what normally you'll see is a cluster of folks. Now that's when you start having the conversation about where should I put a shop? Well, some people are like, well, I need a lot of traffic going by. So the rent will be 2, 3, 4 times as much if, for instance, you want to get a high traffic area, like where there's a lot of cars going by. But think about that. Does that really make sense? Like, if I'm driving down the road, bro, I love detailers because Dylan's one, and I love you, Jacob, because you're a detailer. But I ain't like going to drive by and go, oh.
Let's take a quick break. We would love for you to take just a few seconds right now to share this episode with your detailing friends across your social media channels. Thanks for helping us build our big money detailer community. One last thing before we get back to this episode. Be sure to claim even more free business building strategies and techniques so you can continue to earn more and serve more. Go to bigmoneydetailer.com. And now, back to our podcast.
Should pull in and get a donut. Dude, you ain't got donuts. You're talking about detailing, right? So you don't need a spot that has high traffic area. So then you can put your shop in a spot where that heat map shows where most of your clients are at. And then you should consider, then this opens up a conversation. I'm so glad you asked this question. You're probably getting more than you want, but that's okay. But then you can start thinking about what else should I offer in my shop? Should I do PPF? Should I do tint? See, then once you have a shop, then you can figure out how do you pay for that rent and all those extra expenses with number one, you should consider the current clients you have in that area where you put the shop. If they cover your monthly nut, just so then you break even. And then you start considering what else can I add to it. And I'm not saying you have to go get certified in PPF and all the other cool stuff. You can bring someone in that does that for you. And now you're bringing in more revenue into the shop, but you know your current clients are covering that rent for you. And I never, ever would ever give up mobile detailing. There is just some folks that don't want to drive, even if you're 5-10 minutes away. They want you to come to them, to their office, like the medical complex or wherever it might be, and they want you to do the car there. So let me pause there and see if you have any follow-ups on that, or is that good, at least at a high level, to figure out when the decision is to have a shop?
No, yeah, that was perfect. And even like what you're saying with the heat map as well, like as genius, that's perfect. Obviously, like putting like a shop where all your clientele base is going to be is definitely something that I was thinking about in the past. Just because I was like, man, it's Texas weather. It's bad sometimes doing cars in the sun if you don't have like a good setup, if you don't have any DI water on you. So I feel for the people that don't have any DI water or any like processes to kind of help with that and combat that.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And the other cool part about that too is, so there is a step between 100% mobile and getting your own shop. There is a hybrid. There's a step in between that. And you just have to be creative. So for instance, is there somebody in your area that has that ideal space right now that maybe they don't do detailing, but they do tint, or they do something else, but they don't offer ceramic coating? Hey, so for instance, let's play that out. Let's say, Jacob, that you were that person that had a tint shop, right? Hey, Jacob, man, if you let me use the shop between 6 at night and 10 at night for those 4 hours, I'll pay you $100 for the space. Think about that. So now you're getting the benefit of having a space. You're getting the benefit of air conditioning. You're getting the benefits of a controlled environment, but you're not on the hook for that $5,000 total expense from an actual spot. So you can think about, any business owner that's smart. It's kind of like the hotel business, right? I do some work for boutique hotels. Like their job is to keep the rooms at 80% capacity, right? But for those rooms that aren't being used, then if they had a way to increase their revenue for that 20% they're not making money on anyway, then they would be happy to do that. It's the same thing with maybe a tent person or someone in your local area. I'm pausing because believe it or not, I have a sneeze that's coming, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to time it just right so we can edit it out if I really go on a sneezing spell. All right, I think I'm good for now. Whew, okay, we're moving along. All right, next question. What's one thing you used to spend a lot now before systems and before automation, before your CRM? What's one thing you used to spend a lot of time on that now you're like blessed, you're like, oh my God, this I'm so glad I implemented fill in the blank.
Mm, something. So besides like systems and all that, something I would just spend, I guess just texting people, like texting outreach manually. It's definitely been something in the past where it would just take forever, like going through like a list of people. And I'm just like, copy, paste, copy, paste. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, before any automations or anything like that built in, yeah, that was definitely the most annoying part.
Yeah, so the idea of that, so the teaching point for all the listeners is what are you, I like to say, we've been blessed with the same time suitcase. We have 24 hours in a day, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all we have. So if you break down your business time, and let's say that's 8 or 10 hours to make it easy, what are you currently spending time on today that you can automate or delegate? Like something you don't have to do yourself, so you free up more time to go back to that thumb, which is do more marketing. I mean, at the end of the day, I learned this from one of my business mentors, Dan Kennedy. He said, whoever can spend the most money to acquire a customer wins the game. So think about that for a second. If you could free up 10, 20% of your time a week and you can spend more time on the thumb, which is the most important part of your detailing business, which is the marketing, then you get to a point where you can spend more than your competitors. And that's like the holy grail right there. The more you can spend to acquire a customer, because you know you're going to keep them, because you're doing great work with them. But man, if you can spend more money on your marketing and bring in more clients, it's like the perfect thing. So what can you do today? To my listeners, what can you do today to automate something like Jacob did on the texting? Or what can you do to delegate that task to maybe a $6 person that's overseas that can do some of that work for you? So that's another challenge for you on today's podcast. What can you get off your plate and give it to somebody else? All right, good. We got just a few more questions here, and then we're going to wrap it up for the day. This has been great, Jacob. You're a great guest, man. I appreciate you sharing it, and it's
Yes,
great
sir.
to see a
Appreciate
young
it.
man like you that's balancing school, which is a very important, and balancing your business as well. So you've been awesome. Um, Last thing is, let's say, and I don't know if you've had this yet, and if you didn't, it's no problem. I always like to ask this question: was there a point where you realized that you're a good detailer? But where was a point in your path where you said, I've got to move from being a good detailer to a great business owner? Was there a
Yeah.
point in that? Maybe talk through it with our listeners of what that was like.
Yeah, I would say when I was first starting, obviously when you first start something, you're not the best at it, and like as you kind of move forward and you start to grow a lot more clients, you'll kind of get that like imposter syndrome a little bit, like am I really good at this? Am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And then as you build more confidence and skill and experience, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm a good detailer now, and then now it's just like, how can I scale? How can I get more clients? How can I let myself have more time to myself, hire out, delegate? How can I kind of prepare myself to exit the business and actually be a business owner instead of a worker. So definitely, I would say once I got out of that imposter syndrome phase, and once I started actually training another worker, that's whenever I was like, okay, now I can start working more on the business side, trying to help scale, do the marketing, and then run these systems on the back end side.
Yeah, man, I tell you, in all the guests I've had, I think this is a very important thing is what happens is it sounds to me that like early on you realize that you can't do it all yourself. I mean, you realized early on, so you already had the mindset of, hey, I need to go find somebody that's 80%. Catch that, 80% as good as I am. You'll
Mm-hmm.
never. I'm a little older than you, and I still haven't found someone who's 100% as good at stuff that I am. But I realized 80% is good enough unless you're landing airplanes or you're delivering babies. So in this
Yeah.
case, if you can find somebody that's 80% as good as you doing a ceramic coating or an interior detailing, whatever it might be, that's good enough. And it's going to be just as good for the client. They're not going to make like, oh my gosh, Jacob did this, but this guy didn't do that, or this person didn't do that. Doesn't matter. All right, good deal. Well, I think that's it for today, man. It's been great having you as a guest. Before we wrap up, just quick question for you. What's the best way for folks who are listening to the podcast or hitting up the website and kind of seeing about you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you, or more importantly, to get them to have you serve them with their vehicle?
Yeah, if you're in the Houston area, my website is jdmdetailing.net. And if you want to look me up on socials, my social is jtran_ise. I post pretty much everything what I do, not only just detailing on there, but it's a little bit of my personal kind of behind the scenes business work. So I'll show people how I run systems, how I do some marketing, and then some engineering advice as well, if you're also in engineering. But a lot of entrepreneurship type content I like to post, as well as my detailing page is JDM Detailing or JDM_detailing on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, it's been great having you as a guest, man. Any last minute comments? I'll give you the last word, then I'll close it down. Anything else any other path you want to go down or anything else? Or are you good to go for today?
Pretty much good to go. Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure kind of sharing my experience, what I've learned, some struggles along the way.
It's always a good thing. Like I always say, it's good to learn from Big Money Detailer, from our team here, but it's also good to learn from your peers like my man Jacob in Houston, Texas. So until next time, I'm Davy Tyburski, America's Chief Profit Officer, also the founder of BigMoneyDetailer.com. Again, go to BigMoneyDetailer.com, grab some free resources, other training. There's also my keynotes out there at MTE and IBA and many other places that I speak. So until next time, go out there and earn more so you can serve more. Bye-bye.
Congratulations and thank you for joining us for this episode. Discover even more strategies and tips on how to increase your detailing sales revenue, improve your cash flow, and boost your bottom line. Go to BigMoneyDetailer.com right now.